Okay, this is 201, week 7, part 7. Once you've thought about it and decided somebody's at fault, then you've got two different kinds of metaphors, two different kinds of themes. If you think, and this is what we talk about when we say literature is up for debate. It's how you interpret it. It doesn't mean anything you say about a poem is true. It doesn't mean it has no meaning, but it does mean that sometimes it's possible for two people to get a very different experience out of it. Um, so so if you believe the guy is at fault, the man from the country is at fault, then you have a story that is a metaphor for hard work, that the theme or idea of the story is don't give up, be aggressive, go after what you want, don't let people intimidate you, don't let people stand in your way, or you will get screwed like this guy, right? Um, but if you believe that the guard is at stake, if you believe that the guard is at fault, then you end up with a theme or metaphor or idea that's like beware of systems that grind you down to dust. Beware of people that give you hope when there actually isn't any hope to be had. So a lot of my students feel like this story is a metaphor for the immigration system, for the DMV, for navigating the health insurance in America, because it's intimidating to outsiders. It's impossible to follow and understand. I broke my shoulder, and getting the medical bills for that was impossible. Taxes can be very complicated and difficult in that same way, like paying your taxes. Um, and so for those folks, and immigration is an especially interesting one, because the thing about immigration is, just like the guy said, and you think about if you work out the metaphor, the guy said the law should be accessible to everyone. Everyone strives to attain the law, right? Well, immigration in America should be accessible. There's a big statue right outside of BMCC that says, "Bring me, you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor, yearning to breathe free." It seems like the Statue of Liberty is an invitation. Immigrants, come here. So it seems like they should be able to get in. And then when they get here, what do they get hit with? Guards. And the guards tell them, you're not allowed to get in here. But maybe if you fill out this paperwork, and if you do it like this, and if you wait for years and years, then you will be admitted. Um, so a lot of my students have thought that this really works as a metaphor for kind of immigration. Um, because and the worst thing about it, the irony is that you think like hope is a good thing. But the irony of hope is that it's because the guy hopes to be let in at a later time that he wastes his entire life. We could also make it as a metaphor for the American dream. The American dream is, if you work hard, you will be successful and you can rise up and become rich. That is what employers tell employees. If you just work hard, you'll get there someday. If you work hard for me, you will get there, and you'll be rich and wealthy and get promoted and come to America and change your life. And a lot of, obviously, every once in a while, for some people, that's true. But for a lot of people, they experience it like the man from the country feels like a metaphor for them, because just like America says, if you come here and work hard, you will be rewarded with money and power. Um, but they tell you that, but they also make you wait. Oh, you'll get a promotion later. You'll get the money later. It's right. Just right now, you're going to have to work at a really low wage. And I know it's you deserve more, but hopefully we'll find you do this part-time job for bad wages. But if you show that you're really good at it, we'll give you a full-time job, and then you get. But then those things never happen, and you end up working in a low-paid part-time job or like some unpaid internship, and it never. They just use you until you get destroyed like this guy. The system eats you up. But they promise, oh, you can get this is for you. The American dream should be accessible to all men. That the American dream should be available to everyone. It's a bright, shining radiant. America is a bright, shining, radiant light that all people can access. But then when you actually try to do that, it doesn't work out so good. And so a lot of my students have had experiences like that, where they were told this would be accessible and you could come here and get a great job and grow and change. And then they're like, oh, later. And actually, BMCC does this with many of its professors. I'm a full-time professor, and I'm actually at the top of the rankings. So I'm like because I'm a tenured full professor. There's no more promotions for me to get. But a lot of the professors, there's professors beneath me who don't have tenure. And those professors, um, they expect to get tenure someday. But some of your teachers are part-time faculty, meaning we just decide every semester whether we're going to hire them back to teach like 1 or 2 classes, and we don't pay them very well, and we don't give them health insurance, and so and we don't give them enough support. So but many of them think, boy, if I do a good job as a part-time worker, someday I'll get hired as a full-time worker. But there's too many of them. There's no way all of them are going to be hired as full-time professors, but each one individually imagines they're going to be the person that's going to win the lottery. And so they end up working their whole lives here for very poor wages and very little job security, being fired at the last minute, being hired at the last minute. Sometimes we hire professors a week after class started to teach class. And so it's very similar to this, right? You feel like, oh, if I just wait, if I'm patient, I'll get in. And then it never happens, just like it doesn't happen to this guy. Um, yeah, cool. Okay, what's interesting is the way the story, just like the bug in Kafka, can be a metaphor for so many different things. I really like starting off the semester teaching Kafka because it really introduces something that it gives students something they expect to see from literature, which is the idea that things have more than one meaning. And that literature, it's up to how you interpret it. Now, that doesn't mean any interpretation is equally good. Okay, if you want to tell me that this whole story is a metaphor for UFO aliens, I'm not gonna you're not gonna get a good grade on that. But you can see the way you can make different arguments using the same evidence, and you got to use metaphor and irony and theme to get at it. But they're different. Using those tools, you can come up with different results that kind of fit how you see the world and the way you think this story sort of relates to the life that you have. Okay, cool. This is going really well. Um, yeah. The last thing I want to say too is there's a couple of other metaphors I want to go over kind of quick. One of the metaphors is one of the things I think that makes a story interesting is the law. What are laws? Laws are something that guides you in how you're supposed to live your life. Moral laws are supposed to tell you how you're supposed to treat other people, and legal laws tell you how you're supposed to live in society. And laws of physics are supposed to tell you what you can and can't do in the physical world. It is impossible to travel faster than the speed of light, for example. Um, it's interesting that the man doesn't have access to these things. Um, because sometimes it can feel like what he's after, what he wants is guidance. Like the law is supposed to guide you in how you live your life. Um, and the laws that guide your life are locked away in this place. So another way of looking at the story is it's about the meaning of life. That you don't have, everyone should know what the meaning of life is, but you never really find out for sure what it is. Wouldn't it be easier to live your life if you knew what the point of all of this was? But you never really find out what it is. I mean, religious people claim they have, but and I kind of claim I have too. But like you never really find out what the meaning of life is. But you have to live your life anyway. And that's something that's happening to this guy here, where he doesn't have access to the law, but he's got to live anyway. And just like spending your whole life waiting to find out what the point of life is, you're going to waste your life. You have to kind of live it without being sure what the point is. That kind of the kind of radiance that streams immortally from the law, the sort of, finding out the real religious truth or whatever, for most people is like not really accessible to them. And so they live their lives like this guy without having access to the laws that should guide your life. Everyone should be able to do that, but it doesn't seem like it works out like that very often. And so I think it's interesting to think about the story as a kind of meaning of life thing. I'm going to end this, talk about one more theory, and then we're going to be done.